Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
That was very aggressive. This is Fish Jelly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
I sound nice and clear.
Oh, yeah. You went out last night?
I did. It was the 30th anniversary of erotica.
Madonna's erotica. Mm-hmm. Homosexuals don't... Just any excuse to be out.
But it was at...
The 28th anniversary of Ellen coming out on her show.
But it was at Precinct for their... Because they're... One of their Saturday night shows is Sugar Tank, hosted by the House of Avalon with Simone and Gigi Good, and so they were all there.
How was that?
It was good. They put on interesting performances, and it was an enjoyable time.
Oh, good.
I saw Guillermo Diaz there.
Okay.
Who has a new movie this weekend that I didn't like.
Called Bros.
Yep, I also offended someone from that movie. That was also there last night.
Wow. We got a lot of comments on the video, specifically I'm bitter and I'm mad, and yeah. I mean, that's when people are tired of seeing certain shit, I am bitter and mad.
Where just you received that criticism?
Yeah, because I'm probably more vehement about just in my comments about gay white men, but I already knew when I said it. Anytime I say anything about white people, gay or straight, and male, it always, those are the videos with the most negative comments.
God, I wish the thumbs down button was still working.
So, yeah, but anyway, we got our COVID, the bivalent booster yesterday. Mm-hmm. So my arm hurts a lot.
Another week of arms hurting after 2 monkeypox vaccines, and
I'm just full of shit. And then I have to go back and get the flu vaccine at some point.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm a petri dish. Do you know who Ned Fulmer is?
No.
Do you know who the Try Guys are?
Yes.
We used to watch, I would play the videos years ago.
You used to expose me to them, yes.
I had no idea that was still a thing. But
I didn't either.
But they're going strong.
They're still trying things?
Ned Fulmer, yes, they're still trying things. And Ned Fulmer tried cheating on his wife.
Wait, which one's he?
Okay, so there's the Asian one who pretended to not be gay for a while.
Yeah.
And then there's the one who's really thin and kind of had a receding hairline, but now he has hair again.
With the glasses?
Yes. And then there's a really tall one. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other one. That was kind of more bro-y. I can try to show
They were all white except for the one, right?
Yes. Let me, just so we're clear, this is who Ned Fulmer is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, they became popular on YouTube, and they started their own sort of business. So they have obviously a big team because they have over 7 million subscribers, and their videos get millions of views. So they have an office with staff.
Sure.
I don't follow any of these people, but Ned cheated on his wife had a consensual relationship with a staff member.
Okay. Never a good idea. Never a good idea.
And has been kicked out of the Try Guys for this. So I was reading a lot about it just because reading a lot about it. I read a few op-ed pieces because there's this one lady for The Guardian who had written some stuff that I found really interesting. But first of all, he issued an apology on Instagram.
As one does these days.
And then she wrote this article about how all these celebrities are starting to write, the Notes app on your iPhone. Mm-hmm. These celebrities are writing apologies on there and then posting them on social media, like how Justin Timberlake did for Britney and Janet. So he wrote one, and I'm just going to read it. It says, "Family should have always been my priority, but I lost focus and I had a consensual workplace relationship. I'm sorry for any pain that my actions may have caused to the guys and the fans, but most of all to Ariel. The only thing that matters right now is my marriage and my children, and that's where I am going to focus my attention." So Ariel is his wife, and he has 2 children by her. So it's well, who cares? What is him, for most of us, if you have marital troubles that shouldn't affect your job. But obviously, he's a public figure and his image is very much. So what I found interesting is the lady who wrote the article talked about, she coined, I believe she's the one who coined this term, like the wife guy. So it's like this, like how all these like straight guys are sort of creating this persona of like how they're really into their wives. So then there was some video went viral of some guy going on a hike with his wife, and she falls, like she slips down the cliff. Like if you're walking around Runyon and you slip. And then I watched the video, it's very dramatic. Like she could have died, but I mean, yeah, she could have kept falling, but she didn't. And then how he was so scared. And then there's some other guy who's like very attractive. His video or a picture he posted went viral because he's like a good looking guy who's like tall and fit, and then his wife is very curvy. So they call him like the curvy wife guy. So just this concept of like these men who are doing what they're supposed to do. Like I'm assuming if you married this lady, it's because you love her the way she is.
Right. Like,
or that you would care about her if she were to be hurt. And then for Ned Fulmer, looking at his Instagram, he is very much a wife guy. Like everything is about his wife, and all, like if you go to his Instagram, it's all about them together and all the things they do and how much his children mean to him and how much his wife means to him and how great their relationship is. And then it's like, wow.
Well, just another example of how social media is purely performative.
Well, so I'm not making any commentary on, I don't know these people or their relationship, and who knows, this might be a Nia Long situation where she knew her man was having sex with this staffer, and now it's just that everyone else knows and he lost his job, so it's embarrassing. But I'm more interested in this idea of like this performance that people put on. And it reminds me of the Chris joke bit, or the Chris Rock bit, where he talks about people wanting credit for what they're supposed to do. Like dads who say, I take care of my kids.
Yeah, like,
it's
yeah.
Like, well, you're supposed to love your wife. You're supposed to like do things with her, and you're supposed to love your kids.
Yeah, you're supposed to save her from falling down a cliff.
So you want credit that your wife is like, a size 16? I mean, you married a big bitch. Like, it is what it is. Like, I mean, what like you want a cookie? What is the point of this performance?
Yeah, that's odd.
So I think it's embarrassing that, just looking at his social media, like, oh God, so you paint this picture like you married your best friend and lover and it couldn't be better. And it's like, well, doesn't seem that way. Again, no judgment against him, but just more like you look like a clown.
I mean, judge away.
I'm not.
We're here for judgment.
Well, but you know what I mean? It's like, I just think, sure, if I could make 6 figures a month pretending to be someone I'm not on social media, would I do it? Yeah, like I would.
Sure.
Yeah. If I could make my year's salary in 1 month just pretending that I'm like really jazzed about shitty movies, I probably would. Yeah, well, I would. And everyone else would too.
I mean, that's
because they do.
That's what they're doing.
Because that's what they're all doing. Mario Lopez and Maria Menounos,
and now Sherri Shepherd.
And now Sherri Shepherd
crying about at Jasmine's Blues.
No, she said the Jasmine. No, she goes. We're going to talk about Sherri Shepherd actually, so we could save it. But
the wife guy concept I immediately went to was Tom Cruise, the original wife guy.
Well, we just watched Niecy Nash on Sherri Shepherd's show, and she was so enthusiastic about her husband. And then it made me think of Tom Cruise and the performance. And it's just so weird. Like, you're supposed to love the person you married.
Right.
So I don't understand why
was
people...
you're the one being interviewed. Why is your partner also being lassoed into this interview from the audience a lot?
And people always comment, like, how I seem mean and, like, to you and that I don't like you. And it's like...
Do they?
Yeah. I mean, I delete a lot of things, but I have to read everything. So I'm subjected to a lot more than you are. Mm-hmm. But it's like... I've been married for 14 years, and it's just unrealistic to think that this man doesn't annoy me, or I don't annoy him, or I don't agree with what he says, or I'm bothered, or I'm having a good time and I'm laughing and we agree. I'm not saying we're the portrait of like a healthy, perfect relationship. I just think it's kind of lame that people see these obvious performances and think that it's real. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's probably what caught my attention is like, I'm not judging Ned Fulmer. Like, I can only imagine what it's like to have it must be very restrictive, especially to be like a straight dude and like you got married younger and you had these kids and you have to have this life, and straight men don't have access to alternative lifestyles the way queer people do. So I'm sure they feel stuck. So I could probably really empathize with whatever he would say to explain his behavior, because, you know, for who he is and what he does and the image he presents, he doesn't have a lot of options or outlets. But yeah, I just think it's interesting that, because then of course I was reading the comments on all of his posts, and it's all these people, mostly ladies, talking about, I'm so disappointed and blah, like, okay. Like, you've all had your man cheat on you too. Like, it's just what happens. Like, people, it's just, I don't know. It's like people don't understand reality. It's like you want to believe lies and you want to have people bullshit you, and it's all commercials. Social media is a big commercial. An advertisement.
A big ad. That big ad in the sky.
So after we watched the Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix, I've been watching like a ton of like Jeffrey Dahmer interviews, like anything I can get, I've been revisiting.
There's also a documentary series coming out.
And then of course I'll want to watch that. But in the meantime, because we have access to that this coming week, I think. So I've just been like consuming anything Jeffrey Dahmer, and I've been really interested in his dad. And right before you came downstairs, I finished an interview he did with Oprah.
The dad.
Yeah, okay. Lionel Dahmer. And I really like Oprah. She is, for reasons that are, she's problematic in some ways, but...
As everybody is.
As everyone is. But I think for what, you know, for me being a 43-year-old, like Oprah and her time on TV has spanned like the majority of my adult life. So, and then just seeing this black woman on TV and being so lit and so successful, and it has a lot of value in my mind. So I like her for that. But revisiting some older interviews of hers, I want to talk more about Dahmer, but revisiting some old interviews of hers, she is very aggressive and like doesn't listen very well. Like she has a point she wants to make and she's just going to bulldoze through it. So in particular, her interview with Lionel Dahmer was uncomfortable. But talking about the performance that we see with Ned Fulmer and social media, I think this attitude that people had towards Lionel Dahmer, because I was watching all these interviews he did and the people's response to him, and it's like, okay, first of all, this question of like, well, when you think of someone like Jeffrey Dahmer, the first thing, and this is what Oprah's saying in the interview, like you think of like, how did his parents raise him? And it's like, well, they didn't raise him to be a fucking cannibal. Like, no. I mean, it's just unreasonable. And most of y'all got garbage ass kids who, of course, in hindsight, you would think what does every parent say? I didn't raise my kid to be like that. Right. So I think it's so weird that it's like, oh, like, because there's this very public sort of situation with someone doing heinous things, and then questioning the parent, like, how did he know? But watching Lionel Dahmer's interview, it's very interesting to see him attempt to balance, because he is an educated man, he's a scientist, try to balance, like, being an absentee, shitty father with reconciling how he missed the potential signs that his child was deeply disturbed. And I just think, like, it's so funny how people judge him, but I would argue that there are probably a lot of, you know, maybe nowadays it's a little different because parents seem a little more aware and present. But if you think about people my age and their parents, I feel like I could say my dad was kind of like that.
I mean, for years, I think for generations lived under this lie about children and children's behavior, and, you know, even myself growing up and doing things I, you know, certainly shouldn't have been doing and exhibiting behaviors that were also, you know, troubling as well. As an angsty teenager, people see what they want to see and they interpret it the way they want to interpret it. Yeah. So Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't telling his parents what he was doing, and they're like, okay.
Well, and then just hearing people be so judgy, like in the audience, and then like, yeah, it's like, okay, well, he grew up in the Midwest. And his dad, his family had a huge home on like almost 2 acres of land. There was a lot because they're like, how could you not notice that he was skinning animals? Well, they had this really big, nice house and a bunch of land in like the woods. So it's like, yeah, it was very easy for him to duck out. And also, like, like, whose parents were watching them 24/7?
Well,
And they were having marital problems and they separated like many people's parents do. So I kind of felt bad listening to him try to negotiate something that would make people feel good. And it's like, Lionel Dahmer doesn't need to make people feel good. His son is like a notorious serial killer. And he probably is deeply disturbed by that.
right. But the bigger problem is how culturally there were certain things that allowed him to go on and on and on.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think, yeah. I mean, it's such a bigger topic,
right? But as the series, attempts to address is how we don't care about queer people, especially if they're brown or black, and they're expendable, and many will go missing before somebody starts asking questions.
And people were so critical of Lionel Dahmer talking about it, but it's like, what did this like straight middle-aged white guy from the Midwest in the 1990s know about gay people of color? And that lifestyle. What could he have possibly have said that would have made? Because a lot of his language didn't really reference like the victims, but it's like, who would be equipped? Who would be equipped? What if some detectives knock on my door and tell me that you killed 15 black men or something? Like, how would I even? Like, I wouldn't even know. And I've spent hours talking about this sort of crime. And if it actually happened to me, I wouldn't even know what to think or where to begin. So I think it's just funny watching this man. I mean, there are things in life that are just extraordinary. And this would be one of those. Like, and we judge people so harshly on things that are extraordinary. Like, this does not happen to everyone. Mm-hmm. So we can't expect this person to behave in a way that would satisfy us. And his life was ruined too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even know. I hope he changed his name if he's still alive.
That's the last name that.
Because Jeffrey Dahmer had a brother, and I'm hoping he changed his last name too. I know his mom did.
Yeah.
His biological mother. But moving on to something much more light. I've never been a fan of Sherri Shepherd's because on The View, she was just a moron. And for those who don't remember, she's the one who posed or sort of challenge the idea that the earth is round, but she's of that variety. But she has replaced Wendy Williams' time slot for the Wendy Williams show. So Sherri Shepherd has her own talk show, and we watched an episode. And I have to say, I liked it more than I thought I would.
I think it's more polished than Wendy.
And it's very fun and positive.
Yes.
Like, she's not being mean and nasty like
gossip.
Wendy was. Yeah, she's just like just being fun and light, and I enjoyed it. Granted, we saw interviews with two people she really likes, mm-hmm. and then Tyler Perry. So, of course, she was just gushing. But I definitely liked watching her more than Wendy Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a winner for RuPaul's Secret Celebrity Drag Race.
God, I already forgot about that. Yes, there is.
The final three were Tatiana Ali, AJ McLean, and Mark Indelicato, mm-hmm. the kid from Ugly Betty and
Veeps.
No.
Sorry, but Hacks.
Hacks. I'm not familiar with him, but AJ McLean ended up winning.
Yeah, as I predicted. I predicted this.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
It was fun enough. I don't think that...
I think I just hate the production and how the audience interaction and how like Michelle and Ross have to say all this fucking bullshit all the time as judges. It's so grating.
Well, it has to be super produced because RuPaul is not, free to... I mean, it's very produced. Like... The makeup and the lighting for RuPaul has to be...
You're a fully fledged drag queen. Okay.
So I think when you consider like all the bullshit the judges have to say combined with everything has to be timed sort of like for RuPaul, mm-hmm. It's... Yeah.
Although the best part of that series is there are so many the camera catching RuPaul looking insane as he's intently taking in the performance.
Yeah, he seems medicated, or maybe he's microdosing shrooms or something.
If I'd cared to, we would have paused that television and taken some shots.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of prime shots. Okay, so we did get a question I thought was interesting. So if you have a significant other, mm-hmm. like, and I think this would apply to like if you're like a same-sex couple or maybe an interracial couple or you have different religions and you know that your parents would not approve of the person you're dating. Do you bring them home?
No. That was how I felt about. That's why you didn't meet my dad for 14 years, because I didn't know how he was going to act, and why would I put somebody that put me through something? Why would I put someone I love through that?
I would agree. I'm probably less black and white than you are. It's not a firm no. It would be like I would have to prime you, because we see in the movies and in TV shows all the time where like someone will bring their significant other home. And it's like, you didn't tell me your parents were awful. Mm-hmm. Like, you didn't tell me they're going to be this mean. And it's like, if your parents are this rude, why do you even care what they think about me? Like, they're awful people. So...
Or not standing up when, you need to check your parents sometimes.
I think it would depend. If my parents were vile and I knew that they would not approve of you, but they're also paying for my $3 million townhouse, I would explain to you, like, listen, we need to smooth over my parents. They're paying for all this shit. They're going to be dicks. Like, we're just going to go for an hour. This is what you need to say. And then we only have to visit them once a year. I feel like that could be appropriate because we have to be practical too. Like, I think this notion of like write off your family. Well, if they don't like my girlfriend, I'm going to break up, like cut ties with them. That's not realistic.
Well, sure. But yeah, it depends on your level of how beholden are you to your parents, either emotionally or financially. Myself, I was like, I'm from right out of high school, I was supporting myself. So I exactly never had to be put into that situation where I needed to depend on them at all for anything. And we talk, we're fine now, but I was very much like, so that was never something. I was free to live my life and be with who I wanted to be.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that if my parents said like, I hate, white people, don't you ever bring home a white person? It's like, well,
understood.
Fundamentally, I have a problem with that statement. Like, that's just not,
of course.
Or if they say, don't you ever date a Jewish person? Don't you ever date it's like, okay, well, that does not fall in line with my beliefs. And we would, like, that would be a reason where I would say, like, I probably don't need to interact with my parents, in a way that would ever require them to meet my significant other. But I'm not actually following my own advice because that was what I said to you. Like, I do think I have to meet your dad because if something happens, I don't want to be uncomfortable. And then something did happen where like we had to meet. So it's like, I think there are practical reasons for why. I just think like when we see it in the movies and on TV, it's always like, you're kind of an asshole for putting your significant other in this situation. Like, you didn't prime them properly. I think there's a way to prime someone where...
There's a way to prime... I think it's... I'm not trying to be rigid, and it's not black and white. Everybody has a different scenario that you need to weigh, and, sometimes it's... You end up coming... sometimes that mixing you end up having a better relationship with your parents anyway after they are forced to confront certain things, perhaps, but...
Sure. Okay, moving on to films that were released we didn't cover. Something called Dead for $1.
No, we didn't, but it's on our website.
Oh, you wrote a review for it because you saw it at Venice.
Yes.
Yes.
So there is...
It's like a Western.
Yeah, directed by the great Walter Hill. And I liked Willem Dafoe, I think, is fantastic in it. I don't really like... is it Brosnahan from The Marvelous Ms. Maisel?
Don't ask me.
I know you had to proofread that review. So.
You think I remember anything I read?
Nope. Anyway, that we do have coverage.
Her name is... So actually, I have our website up so I can see it. Her name is Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really care for her. She's also in House of Cards.
I wouldn't... Oh, is she the one who...
The prostitute that they have to hide away.
Oh, I do recognize her, actually.
Yeah, she was my least favorite part. But anyway...
I need to rewatch House of Cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
One day. Also, God's Creatures opened this weekend, which we didn't cover. An A24 film. I saw that at Cannes, and I reviewed it at Ion Cinema, if anyone's interested. It is directed by Selah Davis and Anna Rose Holmer. I liked Anna Rose Holmer's first film well enough, The Fits, a few years ago, but she's got Emily Watson and Paul Mescal in this Irish film that's kind of about a mother who realizes she has a terrible son because he raped some girl and gets away with it. It's very standard, and I really do like Emily Watson, but I didn't even bother asking if you wanted to see it.
Next, My Best Friend's Exorcism.
We got a lot of emails about this, but Damon Thomas, who's probably best known for Penny Dreadful, directed this movie starring Elsie Fisher, the lead from 8th Grade. And I don't know anything about it other than that.
Lastly, something called Sirens.
It's a rock doc directed by Rita Baghdadi about the Middle East's first female metal band.
All right, movies you watched for fun. Something called Nadine.
Nadine, 1987, directed by Robert Benton, who's best known as the screenwriter of Bonnie and Clyde and the writer-director of Kramer versus Kramer. This is kind of a B-side he wrote for Kim Basinger, and also starring Jeff Bridges and Rip Torn. And it's set in 1950s Texas, and I think Kim Basinger is quite fun in it. It's a sweet little film.
Next, The Gauntlet.
I'm still trying. I haven't read. Somebody had requested as a secret film we do The Beguiled, which is my favorite Clint Eastwood film, and I've been waiting to actually read Sandra Locke's memoirs from the late '90s, who was a partner of Clint Eastwood's forever, and they had a very public, conscious, and what's the word I'm looking for? They had a conscious.
Contentious?
They had a contentious, conscious uncoupling. Anyway, they starred in, I think, 6 films, and she plays a prostitute that he has to escort from Las Vegas to, I forget where they're going now, but he directed this film in 1977 called The Gauntlet that has a few pretty intense shootout sequences. It's worth a watch if you like Eastwood.
Next, Mr. Klein.
I finally got around to reviewing this. Released on the Criterion Collection several months ago, but it is directed by Joseph Losier and starring Alain Delon. A very interesting film about a man. It's a Kafkaesque film about a man who, in 1942, Nazi-occupied France, discovers that there's a doppelganger running around with the same name who's Jewish, and he's trying to desperately clear his name.
Next, Chan is Missing.
An early hit directed by Wayne Wang, who I think you know who directed Beauty Shop.
Oh.
Interesting film, also on Criterion. I haven't written about it yet, but that I did like well enough, and it just so happens that another Wayne Wang film is being restored and re-released just a week or two ago called Life is Cheap, but Toilet Paper is Expensive. And I've got around to watching that too, which is interesting and kind of fun in a meandering sort of way. I think I prefer Chan is Missing, but yeah.
Next is The Good House with Sigourney Weaver.
Yes, that we covered that over a year ago out of the Toronto International Film Festival.
There were several comments like, how did you review this a year ago? The answer is simple. We watched it a year ago.
And well, it says, as in all of them, we introduced what it was out of. That finally got released. I think is getting probably mixed to positive reviews. And, I've already seen a couple headlines mentioning she deserves Oscar attention, which I, of course, agree with. If Glenn Close can get nominated for The Wife, or what was that redneck movie Ron Howard directed?
No, didn't she get one?
Hillbilly Elegy.
Yes.
Yes. And The Wife, it's like, that's a film that was a really good performance, and everybody thought it was a so-so film.
My recollection of The Good House is I really liked Sigourney in it. I think she's quite funny, and she's in it a lot. Like, it's a big performance. I recall thinking Kevin Kline is like, maybe that could have been someone else.
This is their third time together, so they're
making I recall feeling like he was kind of. I don't know. I don't want to say. Watch our review, I guess. No, for a more accurate review of it.
But of course, I had a screener, and I watched it twice out of the Toronto, and so I watched it again by myself.
So you've seen it 3 times.
I've seen it 3 times, and I think she's fantastic in it. Yes.
Okay. Lastly, I watched a movie called Gatlop, which is a 2022 movie. It's like a comedy horror. It's directed by someone named Jim Mahoney. I don't know who that is. But it caught my attention because it has Sarunas J. Jackson from Insecure, who I now see at the gym.
Okay.
So I thought, let me check it out. And I actually thought it was pretty fun. It's about a group of friends who... Gatlop is the name of some game. and it's kind of like where you pull cards and ask friends like questions, and they do things, and it's supposed to like help you understand your like the people you're playing with better. But then of course like secrets are revealed, and there's some evil entity that's making them do things to uncover blah blah blah. And I think I don't know what I didn't look up anything about this movie. I'm assuming it had quite a low budget, but it looks pretty good, and I think there's some pretty inventive sequences. So the person who made this movie, I think, did a good job of making the most of what they had. And I thought the story is pretty derivative, but the performances were pretty fun. So I just threw that in there because that's something I watched.
Okay.
And I don't like to watch, just like how people don't like to do, what is it that they don't want to do charity without it being televised? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to watch movies unless I can talk about them now. Okay, projects of interest. Something called And.
Yorgos Lanthimos, he still has Poor Things in post-production. I'm assuming that'll probably be at Cannes. He's filming a new project in New Orleans next week, starring, again, his third time with Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons, and Margaret Qualley are all part of that production. I don't remember what it's about, but of course that will be something I'll be interested in seeing.
Next, Nosferatu.
Robert Eggers, after The Witch, was trying to remake Nosferatu for years, and I think after it looks like that's coming together, which is kind of exciting. And he's recruited Bill Skarsgård to be the vampire, and Lily Rose Depp, I believe, is the female lead.
48 Hours in Vegas.
Jonathan Majors has been recruited to play Dennis Rodman in this film. I don't know if it's...
Wait, who's playing Dennis Rodman?
Jonathan Majors.
Oh, I'd have to look up who that is.
From Lovecraft Country and The Last Black Man in San Francisco. You've seen him in something.
Is there a movie about Marlena Dietrich?
Oh God, Fatih Akin, who directed Diane Kruger in The Fade, has hired her to play Marlena Dietrich in a 5-part series. For years Ryan Murphy was trying to get Dietrich series off the ground with Jessica Lange. That maybe will not come together now. It's more appropriate that a German should actually be playing Marlena. In the 90s, Isabelle Huppert was talking to Louis Malle about playing Dietrich, which that would have been fantastic. Clearly, obviously, she's not German, but she could have done that.
Dark Wire.
Jason Bateman is directing a thriller, a tech thriller based on true events for Netflix called Dark Wire.
Listen, after that last season of Ozark, I don't trust him.
He didn't direct all of that. Just
I would need to hear some good words about this movie before I would agree to watch it.
You liked the films he directed, because Bad Words I thought was entertaining enough, and then
but those were comedies.
He directed that Stephen King series you liked, or he did a couple episodes. The Outsider with Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about him anymore.
Okay.
We'll have to see how this one goes.
See, this is where listening to a podcast...
And then I also listen to Smartless, and I really like Will Arnett. Mm-hmm. Sean Hayes drives me crazy. And Jason Bateman is just too smug for me.
It's funny. My sister listens to that, and she always says that she's reminded of me with Jason Bateman.
You're grading Tuba in a different way.
Thank you.
I don't think you're like I know she says that. I don't quite get it, but my perspective of you is different than hers. But no, I mean, kind of like the pretentiousness of it all. Yeah, I could agree that, like, I see it. Mm-hmm. But he also acts like he doesn't know, like, I mean, yeah, I guess you do that. Like, pretending he doesn't know what, like, normal people do.
Okay.
But obviously you're not, like, a celebrity who lives in a castle. So, you kind of act like you don't know about, like, basic things.
Like
so,
Ned Flipple Flopple.
Or yeah, certain music or movies you pretend like that's not on your radar. And I think, yeah, but the way Jason Bateman does it, really, the only reason I listen to it is for Will Arnett, and then if they have a guest I like. Mm-hmm. And they are funny together sometimes.
Yeah.
particularly, didn't they do because they,
Yeah.
for the podcast, you like record commercials, and they did one for like some German
mattress. It was a mattress commercial.
It was a mattress commercial, but Jason Bateman is doing it like with a German accent.
They all are. All of them.
They all are. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That should be nominated for some sort of advertising award. Is Beverly Hills Cop being remade?
There's another installment being made, I think, right now, called Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, because I saw Kevin Bacon was added to the cast.
Would this be the third one or the fourth one?
The fourth one,
Oh.
I believe. Eddie Murphy is back to star. It's the directorial debut of somebody named Mark Malloy.
Great.
So that isn't great. Taylor Page, who I know you don't really care for, is on hand. I like her.
Charles Bronson?
Bronson Pinchot.
Oh, Bronson Pinchot's in it?
Yeah.
I do like him.
Paul Reiser and Judge Reinhold are all returning.
like Judge Reinhold.
Because they were in the others. Mm-hmm. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt's also in the cast.
Well, I don't need this movie. Will I watch it? Probably.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Lastly, Jesus Diabetes.
Bob Odenkirk is starring in this film, which sounds kind of interesting to me. And the director is Heath Cullens, who's It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia alum.
All right. Unfortunately, there is an entry in the obituary section. Coolio done died.
Yeah.
He was 59 years old. Most people know him as a rapper. He did the song Gangster's Paradise, which was featured in the movie Dangerous Minds.
Starring Michelle Pfeiffer.
That was a big hit song. It won a Grammy. He had a couple of other songs that I know, but I don't know that they were big hits. He was found at a friend's house unresponsive in the bathroom. So
I read that they said he went to the bathroom and then didn't come out.
Yeah, I mean, it bees like that sometimes, but it's sad because he has 6 children, which I don't know why he needs 6 children, but to be so young and leave behind 6 children is not nice, pleasant for them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the secret movie is Ganja Hess. We have started doing like live reviews, which are interesting. And the one we did yesterday, the theme was Black horror, and the categories or the films that were up for selection were Ganja Hess,
JD's Revenge.
Death by Temptation.
The Beast Must Die with Calvin Lockhart and Marlene Clark.
And The Transfiguration.
Yes.
And the people voted for The Transfiguration.
Yeah.
Which was the one I was least interested in.
Same, and yeah.
I really wanted to watch Death by Temptation.
Well, we still can.
But we still can. So, but that inspired us to watch for the first time, Ganja and Hess.
What was my selection?
Because it was your selection. It's a 1973 film directed by Bill Gunn. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. There's a lot to say about it. We have 20 minutes. I don't want to go long because I don't feel well from this COVID shot. But let's just tell the basic story. Mm-hmm. So, Ganja and Hess. Hess is a doctor, an anthropologist, and we see that he has gone to Africa somewhere to study some tribe of people
the Murthians,
who are known to be blood drinkers. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he comes back home. He's very rich. He lives in a lavish mansion. His assistant, who's played by the director,
Bill Gunn,
is kind of like a weird guy. Like, it's established that maybe he has issues, and he one night attempts to attack his boss, Dr. Hess Green. He attacks Hess, and then this assistant goes and kills himself. Mm-hmm. And Hess, who has not died from his wounds, drinks his blood.
Well, because Hess was attacked with dagger from this ancient tribe.
So this is when Hess realizes that now he's like a vampire. And
a blood addiction.
So then we fast forward, and the assistant's wife, Ganja, she shows up and contacts Hess like, yeah, I just flew in from Amsterdam. I don't have any money. My husband's dead. You need to put me up.
She doesn't know her husband's dead.
Oh, she doesn't. Oh, that's right. That's a big part of the story. She doesn't know. So she goes to stay with Hess, and she finds her husband's frozen dead body.
After becoming Hess's lover.
After becoming Hess's
Like
lover.
immediately.
Yeah. And after she finds her husband's dead body, she is freaked out for a minute, but then she agrees to marry Hess. He converts her to being a vampire, and then they bring in some guy as like a meal for her, and she has like her first kill. They seem to have conflict because she gets upset because the guy, it seems like she was really into the guy she killed, and then when they go to like dispose of his body, he's still alive, so she's really upset by that. So then the movie switches to Hess going to church and wanting to be saved. So we get a scene with him in the church getting saved, and then he goes home and kills himself. And the final scene is now Ganja is by herself, and we see her victim like rise from the water and run towards her.
Naked.
Presumably like she's going to continue to be a vampire. The end. Okay. The story I think is really interesting.
It should be important to note that laying out that story, a lot of that is really just barely suggested.
Okay, so yes. So the version that you have, so when the film was originally released, it was only like a 78-minute cut, I believe.
Yeah, they butchered it.
They took a lot out, but the original cut was like 113 minutes or something like that. So like 30 plus minutes were cut from the film to make it more palatable for like audiences. So the director's cut was hobbled together with this 35 millimeter film that is not in good condition. The audio and the visual is quite poor for all of it, but the parts that are clearly restored are like even worse. So it's not an easy film to watch.
Yeah, you have to pay attention.
You have to pay attention, and I mean, it took a lot for me to piece together what was happening. But I will say, the director, whose name is
Bill Gunn,
I think, and he wrote it. I think it's an interesting story. I can see why someone would want to remake it, which Spike Lee
did in 2014 as The Sweet Blood of Jesus.
But his version is not as visual.
No, not at all. It's in a much more loquacious, is from what I recall. I haven't seen it since it came out.
I would love to have this movie remade like the way it is.
Like a lavish remake. Like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes, because I think the story itself and like the issues, the quality of the production is poor. I think the director was limited by resources, so it just really feels...
Well, I read to you a piece that I really like on the article written by Jamie Chrisley when the Kino Lorber Blu-ray came out, probably nearly a decade ago now. I like how they said that Bill Gunn has like borderline contempt for the narrative.
Well, we can talk about it, but I think one of the biggest mistakes beyond the quality of it is Bill Gunn cast himself as Hess's assistant. And his acting ability is not there, especially compared to Dwayne Jones,
from
who we know...
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Dwayne Jones, I think, gives a pretty good performance. He's kind of like somber and like stoic. And his voice feels more confident. But...
yeah, he has screen presence.
Yeah, he has screen... But Bill Gunn, I mean, he has screen presence, but the acting... I have notes, but my biggest thought about him is I feel like he didn't bother to like memorize any lines.
Rambling.
Bill Gunn's just rambling.
Sure.
And then I think he instructed Dwayne Jones to do the same. And Dwayne Jones seems like he's approaching the rambling like this improv with more of like he's being very economical with his words. But then Bill Gunn keeps like, because he's just rambling on like doing improv in this movie, he keeps repeating himself, and I found that tedious. And then Marlene Clark, who's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I do like her a lot.
You said
she's giving me Lynn Whitfield.
Or Dominique Jackson.
That too, yeah.
Who's also beautiful. But her acting is not as crunchy as Bill Gunn's, but it definitely...
Oh, she's giving a performance.
Bill Gunn and Marlene Clark are giving like blaxploitation level performances, whereas Dwayne Jones is giving like, he's acting. So that the film suffers for that, and then I think the narrative, the way it's pieced together, it's
bare bones.
It's so bare bones that it's like you really have to think about it. And so then we had a long conversation afterwards because I feel like with a lot of art, it's the context that gives it so much value and makes it interesting. So in thinking about it in that way, I find this movie quite interesting when we think about the director, who I presume is gay.
I think that he had relationships with men and women, and he was living with Sam Wayman at the time, and he of course did the score for this and appears as the Reverend in this film, and was the brother of Nina Simone.
Yeah, Sam Wayman is in the film as the Reverend, and he is Nina Simone's brother, and the director was living with him, so we can presume. But also, the minute I saw him on screen, I'm like, that's a gay man, isn't it? And then you researched. So I think for this gay black man to make this movie in the early 70s, because then we also have to consider sort of like black American culture at that time.
Yeah, who I'm sure avoided this film.
Oh yeah, because like topics like, I mean, I can only imagine my dad, like if I were to ask my dad about this movie, I'm sure he would know about it, and he probably would have something to say along the lines of like, oh no, I didn't watch that. Mm-hmm. That devil shit or whatever. He would say something like that. So I think it's so I'm almost more interested in knowing, or if someone could remake this movie like Dolomite, how it's like,
oh yeah, like the
Bill Gunn making of the someone could make a narrative feature about Bill Gunn making Ganja Hess.
Yeah.
I think that'd be super interesting. But his writing ability, like this idea, I think is very strong. It's definitely stronger than a lot of shit we see, story wise.
No, I agree, and it leaves an impression. I think it really is better seen in the theater, because I think to me it's kind of like an ethereal vampire nightmare, and especially in the second half when Marlene Clark kills that victim. I really like that scene, and he's like covered in sweat and then blood, and you get that kind of fury and that anguish scream of hers.
Let me go through my notes quickly. The first like 15 minutes of the film, or 20 minutes, there's just a lot of talking about blood. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you didn't know this was a vampire movie, you gonna learn today. Like, it's just nothing but talking about blood. Again, Bill Gunn, I don't even think on the script where like his character pops up, it probably was just like an ellipsis. I don't even think there was like a frame for what he was supposed to say. He is really winging it. Mm-hmm. Okay, the scene where the assistant stabs Hess, when Bill Gunn stabs Dwayne Jones, I didn't quite understand that. It took me a second to realize what was happening.
Well, because it cuts to Bill Gunn in the bathtub.
Right, because then so we see him attack his boss, and then we see him in the bathtub. And the bathtub scene is pretty, I mean, it's something to see. For sure, because first of all, the way he's sitting in the tub, you have never seen someone sit in a bathtub like on their knees. Like, it couldn't be more uncomfortable. And then he's shaving with this little ass mirror, and then all of a sudden he starts brushing his teeth with the bath water, and then he's like rinsing his mouth out by dunking his mouth in the bath water. And then when he gets out of the bathtub, I swear I saw a little piece of doo-doo floating in the water. Like, oh boy. It was like the weirdest
But then he
scene.
kills himself, and then Hess comes in and drinks his blood off the floor. But, we get another curious scene of Marlene Clark in the grass drinking like that, too.
Well, I think what the story fails to exhibit, you picked up on it, and I don't know if because you were reading about it as we were watching it, but that Bill Gunn's character is supposed to be mentally ill. Mm-hmm. And I think that it does not come across in the film effectively. I think once you...
He's depressed and drunk, that scene in the tree that goes on forever.
Yeah, but we don't really...
But it's. I think a lot of that setup is not well established.
No, and it seems so random. Like, what possessed the assistant to try to kill his boss? I mean, he was with him in Africa. Maybe he knew something we didn't know. I feel like we needed more time in Africa to witness.
Well, we just get those like dream sequences where you see that's where Mabel King shows up
from The Wiz.
The Wiz, who's Eveline, shows up as the Queen of Murthia.
Yeah, if this were remade, I think like as is, I think we would need more time in Africa to kind of understand where because I really feel like the assistant just feels like, I don't know if Bill Gunn just wanted to be in the movie and just thought, let me just jump in here and do something.
But it's very much trajectory that mirrors, I think, Melvin Van Peebles, who kind of single-handedly created the blaxploitation genre with Sweet Sweet Ass is Badass song. But there was kind of a contempt in it, like a burn bridges quality about his later work as well. And I think you have to keep in mind that Bill Gunn's first film, 1970's Stop, was shelved indefinitely by, I believe, Warner Brothers, and he would have been the second black man to have a studio film after Gordon Parks for The Learning Tree. In that film, Stop, which also stars Marlene, I believe had an X rating. It's about swingers. It features, flagrant homosexuality, and it's something that no one wanted to deal with then.
Yeah.
So I get the sense that he is kind of saying "fuck you" to the audience, even in this.
Sure. I was very impressed by the visuals, even though the quality's poor. I think his artistic eye was quite good, and I think the sound or the score, like the sound editing, the sound editing is terrible because of the quality, but I think the score and some of the sound effects are really effective. And I almost thought this would work better as like a silent film.
Yeah.
And just have the score that they have.
But there are things, because you have to infer a lot of what's going on.
Because none of the dialogue really adds to anything.
Right.
Especially like the preacher scene.
Well, it's like I don't understand why Dr. Hess all of a sudden feels like he needs to be saved and beyond.
Oh, really? I felt like that was, to me, it seemed like he was tired of this life and he thought the only way is to the Lord is going to save him.
I know, but we don't, and of course the shadow of the cross is what takes him out. But I guess there's a transitional kind of phase missing there for me, because I think it'd be more interesting to explore how they're kind of, with the man that he brings in, it's like, oh, you're feeding off the community, and it's somebody that works in a youth center or something.
Sure.
And the guilt of that. And I think that is interesting to explore, because you do see Hess go off in one scene, it looks like he had killed a white woman with a baby or something, that lady lying in the bed.
Well, this sort of speaks to one of the criticisms for the Candyman remake was that the victims were within the community, and people were saying, well, why wouldn't he choose to attack white people?
Right.
So I wanted to hear, let's just keep moving on. Because I'm running out of time. When we first meet Ganja, she is doing a lot, which was fun. Because then I'm like, oh, yes, we're going to get a really campy performance from her. Because she's dressed to the nines and she has all her luggage. And she's telling, when she's giving instructions to be picked up, she's like, your driver can't miss me, I'm valuable.
Yeah.
So I was hoping we get fun, but that's the extent of it. I mean, when she first gets to the mansion, she's very pushy, and throughout she's pretty direct until she converts. So I think you could read into that how her character changed when she changed. But yeah,
it looked like there's a really great, I thought it was great, I loved the monologue scene with her, which looks like some of the footage that had been initially cut, where it's just her in full frame talking about her youth in these snowball fights, and kind of used as a way to frame how she felt about her mother and kind of explain her later behavior as an adult. But she has a line where she says, I decided I am a disease, which I really liked.
Yeah. Another really cool scene I thought was when Ganja's having sex with the visitor. I thought that, and then she kills him. I thought that looked really cool for what they were able to do.
Yeah.
However, we get a scene where that man puts his foot in her face, and then she puts a toe ring on him. That took me out. I'm like, what is the toe ring? And then we see the toe ring as they're rolling around in bed. Emphasis is placed on this toe ring.
Well, because it's like an unholy it's an upside down world.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
like an unholy wedding almost.
That does make sense. But I mean, visually it was quite cool. I also wrote down what's the point of the preacher man. So I do agree. I think, but not for the same reason. I just thought that I don't think we get a lot, I can see why 30 plus minutes of the film was taken out, because it just seems to go on, particularly the scenes in the church, because I think the point is very clear that he's trying to find an escape from this hell he's finds himself
thrust
in.
into, yes.
Yeah, but then it's and then because the preacher's audio is not good, it's kind of unintelligible what he's saying. It could have really just been a silent thing where we see or hear some really cool gospel music and we see him go out to the preacher and get saved. It could have been a 3 or 4 minute thing, but instead it's feels like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it feels long.
That's all I have. I think it's a very interesting film to talk about. I would love to like I said, if someone redid this in the vein of like Dolomite Is My Name, that could be so cool. It does make me want to watch the Spike Lee movie.
Yes, I would like to revisit that because it's been a damn near a decade.
But yeah, if you have, I don't know what platforms it's on. You have a disc of it, so that's how we watched it.
Yes, I'm sure it's streaming somewhere.
I would recommend it if you're feeling in the mood. I mean, again, it is hard to piece together things. I mean, maybe after listening to us talk about it, you might have some insight, and it might not be as difficult. But moving on, for next week, what do we have? We're watching Hellraiser tonight, I think.
Yeah, there's Hellraiser.
We were going to wait for a friend to watch it with us, but he can't join until it's too late.
It's we have an anniversary next week.
Our anniversaries next week.
We're seeing...
So if you want to send anniversary gifts, you can send it to the P.O. Box listed in the link. Or you can just Venmo Fish Jelly. I don't know. And then what else?
Triangle of Sadness, the Palme d'Or winner.
I have to watch that?
Yeah.
Oh, did I agree to that?
Yeah, well, you're seeing it. It's very good.
Oh.
Yeah, you need to see it. You should see the Palme d'Or winner. I enjoyed it out of Cannes. And I think what else is this week? Empire of Light. There are a couple other things I'm not thinking of. But
anything else you want to say?
No.
Are you reading anything?
Still the 20-Year Death. Because that, it's like 700 pages, and I haven't had a lot of time this week. We did a lot of coverage this week.
Yeah, this past week is the most views we've ever had.
And we did stuff the future coverage. Yeah,
we have like 5 videos for like the future that we put up, and then like we did 2 live videos, and the interesting thing about getting more views and more is like lots and lots of comments. It's exciting but weird because this wasn't my expectation that it would be so involved. I'm not implying that I want to give up. It's just an interesting turn of events that it's becoming like. Yeah, it's just weird to every time I check the YouTube Studio app, it's just like more like just rows and rows of more comments, and so that's exciting. And obviously, but thankfully most of them are positive. But yeah. So last week was very busy.
There was something I was going to say. I'm forgetting it now. But
Dead Space. Was it related to?
No! Next week, Tar is coming out, which I'm very excited for that review to drop. Cause
the video drops tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Monday.
Yeah, because I love that film. And there's a screening next week with Nina Haas and Kate Blanchett and the director. But I feel like I don't need to see it again.
No.
A third time, right, in such quick succession. But
I enjoyed her performance enough. I would watch it again. I don't want to go to the screening you mentioned, but I would, like, if I had to go, I would go, because I do think she's very good in it.
She's pretty damn good, yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you.